Well, you won't find a brontosaurus in this museum because we don't actually have one. But equally at the moment you won't find a brontosaurus labelled as such anywhere in the world. And that's because for many years the name brontosaurus has been sunk. Instead it's been regarded as just another example of a different name, an animal called apatosaurus. And so the name went out of use until now.
OK, when is a brontosaurus, that half-elephant, half-giraffe, whip-tailed giant of the Jurassic, not a brontosaurus? When it's a war baby, a bone war baby. This is the story of a dinosaur child of warring parents, a monstrous reptile we took to our hearts, and whose mistaken identity was collateral damage in a notorious academic feud between fossil frontiersmen of the wild American West. It's a story set in the 1870s, 80s and 90s, when even the word dinosaur was new. It's about the two paleontologist pioneers Othniel Charles Marsh and Edward Drinker Cope, who gave us the Stegosaurus, Diplodocus, Camarasaurus, Apatosaurus, and many other sauruses besides, both real and unreal. Their 30-year bone prospecting one-upmanship, the Bone Wars, may have turbocharged a golden era of discovery, yet it dragged evolutionary biology very publicly through the mud. For as their teams braved blistering heat and frostbite cold in the rich fossil graveyards of Texas, Colorado and Wyoming, avoiding Indians, living off canned oysters and strawberries in syrup, yuck, or maybe a little fresh elk, chiselling, digging and dynamiting ancient bones into daylight, their masters, Marsh and Cope, acted like a couple of schoolboy cowboys firing cheap shots at each other from behind their comfy professorial desks back east. Theirs was a duel to the finish that destroyed them both in a blaze of tabloid publicity.
New York Herald, January 1890. Scientists wage bitter warfare.
1890 was when it all came tumbling down for Marsh and Cope, when news emerged of the sleazier side of their science. There was the bribery, corruption, spying and deliberate damage to priceless fossil remains, dynamited so the other guy couldn't study them. The profs even sanctioned real-life shootouts on contested sedimentary rocks. Allegedly. That's what the Bone Wars were all about. They were nasty. Get this! Marsh and Cope were once friends, almost collaborators. They met in Germany, avoiding getting drafted into the American Civil War and enjoying the excitement of a Bavarian discovery some called a missing link, the feathered dinosaur Archaeopteryx. Returning to America, getting down to some dinosaur hunting of their own, Cope invited Marsh on a guided tour of his New Jersey fossil dig. But behind Cope's back, Marsh bribed the quarry owner to send all the best fossil finds to him. And that's how, in 1867, Marsh bagged for himself a creature that should, by rights, have been Cope's.
A new gigantic fossil serpent from the tertiary of New Jersey.
Marsh had fired the opening shot of the Bone Wars, triggering a duel that was to last 30 years. But why? Was it purely in the interests of science, thinking Cope couldn't be trusted with the best fossils? Or was it jealousy? Could the balding Marsh have resented Cope because he was younger, better looking, more charming and richer? Cope had a full head of thick hair, chiselled features, drop-dead moustache and a ready smile for the camera in the days when it was hard to be photographed. Cope looked good. He sang comic songs too, life and soul of the party. Marsh, not so much. Professor Jim Secord is a historian who's written about the tectonic shifts in 19th century science and understands more than most what was going on in the minds of the characters involved. Why does he think the stakes were so high for Marsh and Cope, that they stooped so low?
Well, the way I think about it is that this is a period of huge egos in science. For one thing, there isn't a defined scientific career. It's not something you could tell your parents, I want to be a scientist, and they'd go, great. They'd think that was like joining the circus or something like that. And so going into something like science was a surprising thing to do, and it meant that the people who went into it were very often very strong characters.
There were two sets of people involved, weren't there? There was Marsh and Cope, who were the academics making sense of the fossils, and then there were their fossil hunters at the quarry face. Now, the fossil hunters clearly did it for money. They saw that they could sell the bones they found. But what was in it for Marsh and Cope? What sort of an enterprise did they think they were involved in, and why were they so passionate about it?
Well, I think in some ways they had different motives for doing it, which again explains why they disagreed so much.